Hi, Nettie Owens here with Sapari Solutions, and I've brought back Bob Graham. He is our people person talking about from Breakthrough Solutions. And today we're talking about perhaps an unexpected conversation for two white folks to have, but I think it's relevant and it's something that needs to be brought to the forefront. So we're talking today about how you talk about the protests when you are in business. So we're having a conversation about how to have a conversation and what that looks like. Because, well, even just getting on here, you know, there's some resistance personally and, you know, and with others to what do I say? What do I do? Do I get involved? Do I not get involved? And we're seeing a lot of posts and things about the harm that silence can do. And so rather than sidestep it, I thought, why not just get on here and have a conversation about it? So Bob, welcome. And I know you were resistant to coming on, so thank you. Funny story, he said he wasn't going to talk about this, and now I convinced him, strong-armed him into being here, so thank you. But I think your perspective is really relevant. You do so much in the work that you're doing as far as understanding and hearing people. And I just was really interested in your perspective. How do we bring this to the conversation? Do we leave it off the table as business owners? You know, what do you think? What can we do with it?
I'm going to start. I need to have a couple of caveats for this discussion so that I can sleep well tonight. One is I do not want to discuss any political views, any social views, any economic views. This discussion we're having has no bearing on how anyone believes. I'm not espousing any point of view. I'm not discouraging any point of view. I'm being agnostic to all those things out there. Whatever you believe, that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't believe what you should believe. Where I would start the discussion with you is, does it make sense for you to add your voice to the chorus? If you are the owner of a business, if you are a key employee in a business, even if you're a line worker, what could happen with your customers? Because when I think about my business, my number one goal is to serve my customers.
Okay.
Does my viewpoint about this issue help in any way my customers? And believe it or not, you're the first person that I've talked to this. We talked about this where we were politically beforehand. You gave me a very impassioned point of view. I provoked you with a couple of questions. What was my point of view, Nettie?
Your point of view was that you do not bring politics into the conversation.
And did I, when you started going down the road of what you believe, did I contribute my beliefs? Do you know what my beliefs are on this issue?
I do not.
Very few people do. Now, I come from a background as a journalist where you couldn't have a point of view.
Right.
You were talking to 2, 3, 4 different sides of an issue. You couldn't have a point of view. So I was trained to put my perspective aside. So I've had that blessing or curse. You can see it both ways. But I've taken that to my business because what I believe about this issue probably doesn't have any relevance to what I do with people. Where it does have a relevance, though, is I know it's a distraction to people. I know it's and not a distraction in a negative way. That's probably the wrong word. It's on people's mind.
Okay.
So I'm doing an offering this week. We didn't have some results we expected. I'm smart enough to realize that people are focused on these issues outside of work. And so we have to be aware of what's going on in the world. But I'm not a firm believer. I'm not a big believer in every company should make a statement about every social issue.
Right.
Now, if it's an issue directly affecting you, so for instance, my company might make a statement about a First Amendment issue. Facebook might be an issue because we have a group, the Ring of Renegades.
Right.
Private group. If Facebook were being clamped down on, I might make a statement about that because that affects my business. But what's going on, while the issues of today affect me personally, they do not directly affect my business. And I would challenge business owners especially to think about, do you help or hinder yourself and your business by wading your feet in this? Now,
Right.
the other thing I would say is there's an alternative.
Okay.
And a very important alternative. This is actually where I land on this. And I've thought hard about this in the last 12 hours. One of the things I think people need more than ever before in our world is a safe place to have a discussion.
I'm with you there.
And so when you started to talk about this issue, my first reaction was, oh, don't want to go there, don't want to go there. But I've learned that it's actually giving a person a place of safety so that they can share their point of view is a gift. And that doesn't mean I have to give you my point of view. I let you talk for 3-4 minutes about the issues. I did bring up a couple of issues with you.
Yeah.
But if you think of what I brought up like New York Times headlines.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't give you my perspective. I made you feel safe that you could share with me because our customers want that. They need that, especially if you have a close relationship with someone. This is a chance where they may not have a safe forum to explore their ideas. Most of us are trying to figure out what we know, what we understand, what we're thinking. And so when someone starts to share that with us, you know, as a coach, I know as a coach, that's really valuable. They need that space. So I'm always willing to let my clients, my customers share their perspective, but I will not argue with them. And I will not, unless they really push me, even give the slightest hint of what I believe. And it's funny because I have clients who are like, right, you've got to be like a hardcore Republican, and others who think I'm a hardcore liberal. The reason that's the case is because I can sit and listen to them on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
And I haven't given anything. And if I don't give them exactly what I believe, where I agree or disagree, they assume that I align with them. And does it really matter? If someone assumes that I align with them, that only emboldens our relationship. I haven't lied to them. I haven't misled them. And more importantly, I've given them that place of safety where they can think about and talk out some of the issues.
Right.
And
which is what is largely missing. I mean, it is actual real conversation rather than just throwing out talking points, headlines, bullet points about, what they've heard, statistics even, and getting into real conversations. I posted something on my Facebook page, and I realized that it wasn't helpful, and so I took the part of it out that was no longer helpful. I had people, it started up a conversation which I considered removing. I
saw that.
And then I didn't because, well, for any time that somebody gets unkind, it's out. Like I will remind you of the rules of engagement are that we're not putting labels on people. We're not calling people names. That's not helpful in any discussion. As long as we're just continuing to share ideas and resources, which I think are really important. Right now, I feel like information is so important. And to be able to get to a point where you could freely share information back and forth, I think that's the key. I mean, that's the conversation, right? So what you said at the beginning about, is this helpful for my customers? So as a business owner, is this helpful for my customers? So you're going to look at it from two different perspectives, right? You're going to have your personal views, and there may be things that you do as an individual person, and then there are going to be things that you do as a business owner, and you make decisions on that. Now, for me personally, I'm feeling the need very greatly to ensure that I provide good information to my clients, but also to create that very safe space where they can, where they can exist and ask questions. And so I think those are two great points that you've brought up. I value very much your perspective as a journalist, that background. And even as a coach, it's about hearing people. It's about, well, first of all, like people is really critical in this, that there's an individual person in that conversation, and their background, their understanding, their experience is going to color everything that's going on.
I've heard people who will start with one point of view when they start talking to me. I will give them that safe space. They will discuss it with themselves. I might ask them a question. Well, is that really true? That's inconsistent with what I've been reading. Or, oh, yeah, actually, your number's low. I was having a discussion about the coronavirus, and their numbers were like 3 weeks old. I'm like, I think you're off. So I looked it up and I said, actually, the numbers are this. In the course of that discussion, that person changed their point of view.
Right.
From it's not a big deal to, wow, this is an issue of concern. I did not lobby them. I did not try to influence them. I tried to help them clarify their point of view because they felt comfortable enough to bring it up with me. And in homes where one member of the house believes certain things and another member of the house believes other things, and they are at odds and they're living together, the safe place is even more valuable. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we buy from people we know, like, and trust. When you shared your opinions earlier with me, my first thought was, man, I've gotten to a place with Nettie where she trusts me with the most valuable thing that she can have, which is her opinion. Because when you put your opinion out there, you run the risk of someone saying, whoa, you're a liar. That's wrong. I refuse to be involved with you because of that opinion. Right. And that doesn't help anyone. And we have crises all the time that if we took a stand on things, it would damage our business. My thought is when you come to me to coach you, when you come to me for training or to speak to your organization, you come to me because I know people. You do not come to me because I know about famine in Ethiopia, which, by the way, I could talk about. I do have information because I read the paper. Right. You do not come to me to talk about First Amendment issues involving China. You come to me because I have a very set area of skills. Now, if there's a political issue that involves people, yeah, I would have the discussion. So if you want my views on millennials working in the workforce, absolutely, I'll talk all day about that. If you want me to talk about how colleges do or don't prepare students to work in the world, all day. You will get a very impassioned argument from me because those are in my wheelhouse of my business. But you will not get me talking about the things outside of that. I will not talk about sexual harassment policies.
So do you not, I'm just curious, I'm going to challenge you just a smidgen, and I'm not going to go into it, but my curiosity is, I'm not going to ask you to say something that you don't want to say.
You won't get me to, hopefully.
How is sexual harassment not a people issue?
It is a people issue, but I do not believe that a middle-aged white guy should be the person talking about that issue.
Okay.
If you want to talk about that issue, and if you came to my company and wanted me to do something, I would point you in the direction of people who are far more gifted, who have a far better perspective than mine, because you know and I know, without going too far down the road, my perspective is the perspective of the white male has dominated. That's not my perspective personally, but that perspective has been heard. Right. And I don't want to be aligned with that group, nor do I feel I'm qualified on that subject. Just like if someone comes to me and they want to be coached on how to lose weight, I coach people, but I don't know how to I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to train someone in sports. I certainly don't know how to train you in music. So I know what my lane is, and I stay in my lane. There's plenty for me to do in my lane. There's plenty of help I can do. And I would encourage people to think about what lane are you in, because what happens, and you see this all the time, I'm sure, is the person who's in 8 lanes is nowhere. Right. When you get your lane, this is part of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so thankful that you shared that distinction. And, I think it's important to point out here again that it's not about you as a person not caring about these issues. It's about being able to create a safe space, have a conversation, further the work that you're doing, be helpful in a way that you have a skill set to be helpful, and to not contribute where you can't affect meaningful change.
Exactly. And that's true of any business. The tire repair company should not be doing oil changes.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not what they do, they shouldn't be doing that. A company that does moving shouldn't be telling people how to avoid hoarding.
Right.
Stay in your lane, and I think that's really recognized. But I always go back to, what do my customers need from me? What do they expect from me? When they write that check to me at the end of the month, when they come to me with a question, do they come to me with, hey, I'm curious about nuclear proliferation treaties? And by the way, everything I've brought up today,
Yeah.
I could talk about
Right.
coherently. I pay attention to the news. So this is not, I don't want to know about it. Every single one of those issues, I could tell you, but my personal views have absolutely no bearing.
Right.
And so it's funny. Some of my friends on the weekends will say to me, when I actually share an opinion, they'll be like, whoa.
We had no idea you had an opinion.
It is very, very rare for me to share an opinion about a current event. I just don't do it. I've trained myself because I don't want to get into a spam war. I don't want to get into a fight with someone about these issues. That doesn't help further things. Right. What I often do, because I know the issues, I will provoke a person to think about their thoughts more broadly. So when we were talking about the issue, what did I say to you? Hey, keep an eye on the mayor of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Because it was relevant. And hopefully that's a little tidbit. You go, oh, I got to look who that is and find out more. You may come back to me and go, wow, Bob, you're right. That's a good person for me to keep an eye on. I had no idea.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. I'm going to end up breaking this up into two segments here, but I'm hoping for those that watch that you're taking something away. And I'm not going to ask you for your opinion, those who are watching this interview, but I am going to ask you, what did you learn? What do you understand differently now, or has this caused you to have any sort of perspective shift about how you communicate and what you're doing right now? Because our conversation was really aimed at talking about hard things like what's going on now, the protests that are happening, and whether as a business owner you should. And, if you are, there's no shame in that. And, I just want to make that clear that that's fine. You have that, ability and right to do so. I just wanted to give a forum where we could consider some, different perspectives. I think that's important right now.
Can I throw one more thing out, Nettie?
Sure.
I was involved with a company a couple months ago that had a really bad case of ransomware. Mm-hmm. It was an IT company. So they were managing people's technology. They had a really bad case in ransomware. They chose to be very open and candid about it through the whole process. They sent an email out that day. They sent updates saying we're talking to the FBI. They were very open about something that most IT companies choose not to share anything more than the mandatory things. To a person, I've talked about this company with probably 20 people. I know their sales director. Every time he walks in the room, someone will say to him, David, you guys, that was so awesome how you kept us informed the whole way. Mm-hmm. There is a place to talk about things. There's the elephant in the room, right? Right. If your company embezzled money and you don't talk to your clients about it, that's not good. If there's something going on that affects your business, you've got to talk about it. I want to make sure, just as I heard you giving that recap, I wanted to make sure that people didn't throw me in this idea of you never talk about anything. Quite the opposite. You talk about the things that matter to your customers from what you do for them. That is such a good, clear directive. And I hope those watching take it to heart. And I'd love to hear, how, like I said, I'd love to hear what you learned from this and what you're taking away from this conversation. Thank you so much, Bob. And we'll maybe have you on again. If someone wants to talk through this with me, they can certainly do that. Can I give my phone number? Do you mind? Yes. Let me, go ahead. 937-754-5575. 937-754-5575. Okay. And I'm happy to talk to someone because this is the area that I really like talking to people about, because communication, dealing with people, that's my sweet spot. So
absolutely, this is why you're here having this conversation with me.
Thank you for prodding me. It's been useful. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, take care. Thank you so much, and everybody be well.